Rutgers University students in New Jersey taking on anti-Israel campus protesters with their love of country.
USA! USA! And the home of the free!
You can see him in a portion of that video. Ben was the student holding the American flag high, and he joins us now. Ben, thanks so much for being here.
Thanks for having me and making the time.
Thanks for sticking up for the country.
Thank you.
What brought you to that protest? Well, how did you get to that spot?
Yeah, pretty simply, my friends and I heard it was happening. We were excited that Rutgers was finally taking some sort of action against these protesters who had been, sort of shouting death to America, death to Israel, and calling for
there are people disrupting our classes and saying death to America. Please do something.
Exactly. So we were pretty happy something was happening and wanted to go, sort of just see it happen.
And so it wasn't, you heard that they were finally standing up to these protesters, grabbed a flag. And how did so many people show up? Was that coordinated? Did the email go out?
No, it wasn't really coordinated at all. My friends and I sort of just came with the flag more as just to go. We didn't really think much of it at the time, and I think people really rallied around it, which was inspiring to see. But it wasn't coordinated at all.
And you see targets on Jews are something you've seen on campus.
Yeah, definitely. Unfortunately, it's not new, and I think that's not really what's talked about enough. This is something that's been going on for years. It's definitely amplified now, but just my own experience and my friends' experience, I've had friends and been called anti-Semitic slurs walking around campus. I'm part of a Jewish fraternity, and our house has been egged multiple times. I've watched students walking in a kippah be pointed out and laughed at. So it is definitely an issue, and it's definitely sort of on the rise of late.
These encampments or the protests from the pro-Hamas folks, are they all students or are there outside aspects too?
Yeah, I haven't really been fully inside, so I don't know. However, I know at least at the protests, it's definitely not all students. They're bringing people in. They have a mix of students and non-students, and they're posting on social media calling for anyone in the area to come and support. So it's not a fully student-led operation.
Unfortunately, some of this ended because Rutgers caved to some of the demands of protesters. Here's a portion of what they caved to: accepting 10 displaced Palestinian students on scholarships. Okay, so maybe some future Gaza scholars. Use the word Palestine, Palestinians, and Gazans in official communications, and display flags of other countries to ensure appropriate representation of students. Why can't Rutgers or other universities just stand up for kids that are being targeted?
Yeah, I think, unfortunately, it's a problem, sort of as you mentioned, across a lot of universities, but university presidents are very hesitant to engage in conflict. That's sort of the way I see it. They want to not take a side, but the action of not taking a side is taking a side. These rallies are fueling anti-Semitism across the country, and Rutgers standing idly by and then basically caving to their demands is Rutgers basically enabling that fuel to the fire.
Last question, real quick. You held that flag. What does it mean to you?
It means a lot when people go out and call for violence and call for hate speech. I see that as un-American, and I don't think that's what we stand for here in America. So I wanted to hold the flag sort of to counter that, and for that reason.
Well, you did a good thing, Ben.
Thank you.
Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thanks for rallying others, too.
Thank you.
You got it.
I'm Steve Doocy.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.
Anarchy on college campuses continuing through the weekend, with student activists pushing their pro-Hamas sentiments. And now Shark Tank's Kevin O'Leary is sounding off with a word of caution for those agitators. O'Leary warning that student protesters are trashing their job chances, adding that when it comes to their futures, they are screwed. Shark Tank investor and O'Leary Ventures chair Kevin O'Leary is here with us now. Kevin, thanks for being here. Why are they screwed? Is it because, I mean, a lot of them are wearing masks. They're trying to hide their identity. Do you think that'll work?
It used to work back in the 60s and 70s because it was only recorded on 16mm film. Today, all of this video, security cameras, are at 1080p and 4K resolution, extremely high resolution that allows you to use AI protocols to identify people by the iris or just a partial exposure of the face. Do you ever wonder how they captured every single person that marched on the Hill and the insurgents? Now, whether they arrested or not didn't matter, but every single individual on that Hill eventually was identified using this AI technology today. It's very available. It's inexpensive. And I use it as an employer every time we have a candidate in the executive suite. We do a deep dive and we find out where you came. We're looking for what you say on your resume matching your reality of your life. And obviously, I don't care what side you're on in the protest, but if you're fighting police, burning flags, wrecking properties, breaking through windows, I'm going to know that. And so is the government, so is everybody else. So think about that. That's all I'm telling these young people. Think about it, because it's not free.
Do you think they're thinking about it, or do they think this will pay off? I mean, everything in their incentive structure, Kevin, in academia says become an activist, agitate. That's what their universities are telling them to do. Wouldn't they want their best opportunities in mind?
Well, universities and the concept of tenure for professors is allowing people with different thoughts and ideas to flourish. That's what our institutions are all about. But I'm just going back to a simple fact. When you break the law of the land, you become a criminal. And if you think by putting a mask on or wearing sunglasses is going to protect you, it doesn't. That's all I'm telling you. And so, you know, I think when you're in your 20s, you're very passionate, and I get that, and everybody goes through that process. But think about it. Think about what happens next. In 10 years, why didn't you get that job? Why didn't you get on that board? Why can't you get a loan? I'm telling you why right now. Because I saw you do it, and you lied to me on your resume that you never broke the law. Well, you did. Whether you get caught or not doesn't matter to me as an employer. That's why you should really think this through. And I teach this in colleges now. The world has changed because we have AI, and we've got high-resolution imagery, and it's being captured every day, and it goes on the dark web within 48 hours. I can see it anytime I want.
You're right. It is a totally different game, and why wouldn't you, if you're a corporation, cover your back by getting all the information you can? Kevin O'Leary, thank you for your time.
Take care.
I'm Steve Doocy.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.
In a sign of a potential breakthrough in the Israel-Hamas war, CIA Director William Burns is now in Cairo for ceasefire talks. He landed in the Egyptian capital late Friday local time. His arrival signals negotiators may be close to agreeing to a temporary pause in the war that's now lasted nearly 7 months. Rami Inocencio is in Tel Aviv, Israel, with the latest.
Good morning, and in another sign of hope, a Hamas delegation arrived in Cairo just hours ago to discuss that ceasefire deal. The return of the CIA director to this region signals the next 48 hours could be decisive.
In Biden, we trust.
Pleading for a ceasefire. This week, families and supporters of the 130 or so hostages still held by Hamas blocked roads, called for more help from Washington as Secretary of State Antony Blinken met Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and picketed Israel's war cabinet as they debated an assault on Hamas in Rafah, but where 1.4 million Gazans have crammed, sheltering from Israel's invasion. The White House late Friday again stressed it cannot support that final invasion of the South.
Pretty clear, we haven't seen a comprehensive plan
without Israel having a plan to protect civilians. More than 34,000 people have been killed in Gaza so far, says Gaza's health ministry run by Hamas.
Allahu Akbar.
1 of every 20 people, says the UN. The ceasefire that may suspend this bloody war hinges on a swap for hostages. The pause would reportedly be weeks long. For every one hostage Hamas releases, Israel would release a larger number of Palestinians held in Israeli jails. Meeting Holocaust survivors, Prime Minister Netanyahu said, "We are determined to return everyone, the ones alive and dead." Yet Israeli officials also confirmed the death of 2 more hostages in the past 2 days. Eliakim Liebman's body discovered in an Israeli grave, Dror Or's body still in Gaza. For Palestinians trying to survive in the Strip, conditions are turning more dire each day. With trash piling up, people living in close quarters, and with summer coming, a public health crisis about to explode, while life implodes in Rafah and across the South.
And the World Health Organization is prepping for the worst if Israel invades, with a new field hospital and pre-positioning medical supplies. And Dana, if peace began now, the UN estimates it would take 80 years to rebuild Gaza.
All right, Ramy and Asensio, thank you.
To Mexico next, and 3 bodies have been found during a search for 2 Australians and an American who went missing last week during a surfing trip. Australian brothers Jake and Callum Robinson and their American friend Jake Carter were on vacation near the coastal city of Ensenada in the northwestern state of Baja California when they failed to turn up at the planned accommodation. The bodies have yet to be identified. Alison Piotrowski is a correspondent for 9 News Australia. She explained the timeline leading up to them going missing.
Jake, Callum and their friend Jack, the American national, they have not been seen since April 27. So we're coming up to 7 days, I think, since they have been heard from. They were on a boys' trip. Jake had travelled over to see Callum. Callum, his Australian brother, actually lives in San Diego, so they'd gone to Coachella together. They were going to celebrate Callum's birthday, so they came down the coast, down Baja's coastline, to chase waves because these guys are surfers and they were looking for a big birthday celebratory holiday. But they disappeared off the grid. They failed to show up to an Airbnb in Rosarito, which is right up towards Tijuana, so right up near that US-Mexico border. And after they failed to show up, their mother, Deborah, had that gut instinct that something was wrong. So she posted on social media. She took to Facebook groups on the Baja coast and said, "Have you seen my sons? They've been missing." And that sparked an enormous response from Mexican officials as this post went viral. And now we are here today where we're in the situation where they have found 3 bodies in the search area where they have been looking at. I travelled out there today with a police escort because that's what you need when you're going through that area. This place is called La Bacarana.